Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this month's Google Hangout with the CX experts. Today we will be talking about organizational adoption and accountability, and today we are joined with three fantastic guests. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them now. The first is Lynn Hunsaker, Customer Experience ROI Strategist with Clear Action CX.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today.
We are also joined by Peter Haid, CX Coach with eSource.
Hello, everybody.
And finally, we have John Carroll, Global Head of Customer Experience for Ipsos.
Hi, everybody.
So thank you all for joining, and those of you who are watching wherever you are in the world. Today's topic is one that's quite relevant, specifically as our workforce continues to change moving into the 21st century. Employees aren't where they used to be. They're anywhere in the world. They're not connecting with the same devices they used to. They're mobile. They're on tablets. So the way we go about adopting, encouraging our employees to adopt our CX programs is a new challenge that takes new thinking and new thoughts. So today with our experts, we're going to dive into those subtopics. And to start, I wanted to move forward with this topic of remote workforce and ask our experts, how do you balance or how do you revise a traditional adoption plan to account for employees that may not be coming into the office on a daily basis? And maybe we can start with you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta, I think, mail them their coffee mugs with the Customer Experience Initiative, logo on there is probably the first thing. You don't want to have them have to pick it up in the office. I think, my immediate thoughts are that you gotta follow the rule that we always follow, whether people are in the office or virtual, which is you have to over-communicate at the launch of these programs, and then continuously. What we found particularly with clients that are using the T word, transformation towards a more customer-centric organization, is that they can really never invest too much in communication. And I think in the virtual side, you need to then open up your portfolio in terms of the media you're going to be using and the frequency of the communication, and direct that towards virtual staff members, because they can very easily just not get that trickle-down effect that you'll see with corporate headquarters offices or people even in individual office locations spread across the organization. So in short, just puts more stress on the different types of media that you're going to need to use for communication to make sure people are getting the messages. And then I would say even more stress on the frequency of the communication, because these folks just won't get like that natural trickle-down effect. So that's top of my mind.
Perfect. And Lynn or Peter, any follow-up?
I have a couple of points about teleworking and sort of what's going to work with these folks. I think as you mentioned, Drew, the dynamic is changing in the workforce. It is much more reasonable and cost-effective, and even it can even help your customers to be distributed. And so communication, as John said, I think the other thing is, make use of technology. Video conferencing is actually very common and should be more and more embraced. And that is, I think, one of the things that remote workers really need. They need that face-to-face once in a while, even though it could be awkward if you're at home, or you're working in that environment. But I was looking up some stats, and there was a source I found that said it was from the Telework Research Network, and 45% of our jobs in the United States are compatible with teleworking or not being in an office. Yet only about 3% of the entire workforce is actually considers a home office to be their primary office. So there's a big opportunity. Of that 45%, about 80% actually want the flexibility to work remotely occasionally or consistently. And so now it's about trusting them, starting with trust, managing by objectives, and not just you can't get into the weeds with somebody that's remote. You've got to look at the results, and you've got to manage by objectives and start with trust. Those would be my sort of key takeaways on remote employees and how you really work with them.
So I think, first of all, I love this statistic. It's amazing to think, first of all, what a knowledge workforce we must have for 45% of people to be able to work from anywhere. Second, to look at that gap that only 3% of them are mobile really does suggest an opportunity. But I wonder if it's not a missed opportunity, it's just a matter of organizational maturity, and that organizations aren't maturing. And so, Lynn, I'd like to pass it to you to maybe marry the concept of remote workforce being a maturity factor in an organization, or if they are separate, perhaps you see them as differing. But how does maturity work into your thinking of adoption strategies?
Well, I think that organizational adoption and accountability for customer experience really lies in the weaving of customer experience insights and mindset into your company DNA. So regardless of whether your employees are on-site or remote, making customer experience a context for decision-making, a context for your conversation, a context for everything that you're doing is a pretty smart idea toward maturing the customer experience management in your organization. So I think there's two different things there.
What do you mean by building the context? How do you build that in? What do you mean?
Some companies start any meeting that they have with a customer anecdote. It may be that, you know, a percentage of customers said this or that, or it could be a story or an example of, you know, such and such happened with a customer, or a recitation of 3 comments from their most recent customer survey, a look at a review of the top 5 elements that customers care about. If you start your meetings with that kind of customer focus, it can shape the way that people behave and think. Also, if you just incorporate customer aspects in whatever you're doing, I think the coffee mug idea that John suggested, that you send a coffee mug so every time they pick up the drink and they're reminded of what's important, but also just making it part and parcel of what you do. So I think in answer to your question, certainly companies letting people work remotely is part of the trust factor, trusting employees to do the right thing. And trust goes hand in hand with customer experience maturity. We have to trust our employees in order for them to show trust to the customer, in order for customers to show trust to us.
Yeah, I think that virtuous cycle that you're referring to is really, you know, whether a company's been around for 25 years, for 5 years, or for 5 months, from our perspective, when it comes to maturity, it certainly does create, you know, we are looking for that cycle of trust, which is reinforced through customer interaction, employee interaction, et cetera. I do want to go back to the point you made about the coffee mugs, and it was actually the point John made about coffee mugs. And I'd like to explore not just coffee mugs as a reminder, but reinforcing and rewarding folks for, you know, in our meetings, I'm sure it's quite easy to start with customer comments. We're the closest to the comments, and it's in our job description to have those handy. But how do we reward and how do we recognize those folks that might be the early adopters in driving this adoption and this accountability? Are there any strategies or tactics any of you have seen that are, and maybe mugs is in fact the answer, but what are some simple strategies we can use to reinforce those who have adopted and really hold those accountable who haven't? And I'll just leave this open for whoever wants it.
Well, I got to start because I got my camera working and I also have a coffee mug here. And it's not just a coffee mug, but it's actually a coffee mug from one of our big clients, Intercontinental Hotel Group. Just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here, Heartbeat's the name of their program. So if you go into any one of the 4,600 plus properties in over 100 countries around the world at IHG, every single one of those people sitting at the desk will have access to the Heartbeat platform that is all about their customer experience on a real-time basis. They're getting feedback from surveys, but also social information. So Coffee mugs are real, and actually people use them. You can even drink coffee out of them. You probably didn't know that, Drew.
Hey, mine doesn't say heartbeat, but that's a good one.
But coffee mugs aside, I mean, the tangible things are fantastic. It sounds like that's an important component to include in an adoption strategy is tangible representations. But are there other non-tangible strategies or tactics you guys have used? You know, gold stars or awards programs. What are some things that you all have seen as successful?
Yeah, let me jump in and add one because I think ISU's good example where they have these what you call tangible products. Drew, one 30-second bite though. Beware that you're competing for customer experience share of mind versus all the other corporate initiatives are out there. So everybody that gets a chance to hang out with this Hangout, you're competing against the IT security guys that are constantly putting out their own, quote, coffee mugs and tangible or intangible items. You're competing against, you know, every different corporate transformational initiative. So beware of your communication program, the media you use, the messages you use, even how much you invest, because you are in a competitive environment even inside the corporate space. But in terms of the intangibles, one of the things that we've seen a lot of clients use over the years is kind of this whole gamification idea and helping people learn through games. And so they actually take some of their customer experience information, research, insights, and they weave it into all sorts of things. We've seen with Whirlpool Corporation had a game of poker that essentially allowed you to play the game by answering questions in the right way about the customer insights. We've also seen an Allstate Insurance Company use a Jeopardy game online. So these are all intangible things. Back, Drew, to your comment about folks that aren't inside the offices, a lot of these are widely distributed organizations, Allstate agents, 17,000 locations, so they're not coming into a central location very often, and having this Jeopardy game that people can access in their own locations and be able to understand customer insights while playing along in a fun type of thing, that's really worked. These intangible things also are easier to update, keep fresh, keep live. So as information changes, if a program changes name or you want to tweak it, it's nice to have some of these more intangible tactics out there and to build upon them because things do change in the environment. And redoing the old coffee mugs logo all the time and getting them out there is expensive. That came to my mind.
So those are beautiful examples. Lynn, have you seen intangible examples like the games, or are there other non-gamified ways that you've seen reinforcement?
One of the most effective things that I've seen for accelerating organizational adoption and accountability for customer experience is self-reporting team recognition. So what that means is that you're allowing teams to kind of do a grassroots effort for a customer experience improvement or innovation. And it could be tops down or bottoms up, but anyhow, usually it's more cross-functional in nature. And the teams can see what the criteria is for what the award points, what gives you points toward the award. So when the teams can see what is going to be rewarded as far as let's use some quality tools such as a root cause analysis, or let's make sure that the customer acknowledges that they're seeing an improvement. Let's show this and that about the way that we thought about it and the way that we decided this that shows customer-centric thinking, not just me, and financial and that kind of thing. But when you put that criteria out there for teams to aspire to, now you're setting a goal for here's how our organization wants to behave, here's how we want to think about. And that's really critical for growing maturity in customer experience in a company. When you have a team of executives who then can assess the entries that came in from the teams and then provide constructive feedback, the teams can go back and resubmit later if they didn't meet a certain threshold. But when they did meet a threshold, then you wallpaper the world with here's these great things that our employees did. And I think wallpapering the world digitally is really important as much as sending out tangible items. If you have an intranet site or you have your collaboration tools. Maybe there's the logo about customer experience, or a thought for the day, or a little podcast or video or anything that helps employees to get awareness of what the top issues are and what the realities are of customers' world, and to be just incorporating that in their day-to-day work.
So let me just see if I heard that correct. Did you call it wallpapering the world?
Yes, wallpapering your employees' world with customer experience insights.
I love it, and that's, I tried to move us off of the tangible to intangible, but you and John are really marrying from both sides the same idea, which is visibility, communicate, be present, and bring that information to the forefront. And once it's there, we're recognizing those folks. And I think you painted a great archetype for rewarding folks through self-reported team success. John, I love the ideas you presented about gamification around a Jeopardy game, or other customer-centric, needing to answer a customer-centric question before getting your next round in poker. I think those are all really interesting. Peter, I want to close it out with you and see if you've got anything to bring over the top on maturity, organizational maturity, reward reinforcement, mobile workforce, and then we're a little over our time, so I want to give all our viewers a chance to get back to their busy days with this new insight.
I'll make one comment about one sort of closing thought on the reward and recognition. I also have an example about organizational maturity I wanted to share. So for me, what I've seen work is reward and recognition being local. And what I mean by that is not every person, it's not a one-size-fits-all game. Even in big companies and small companies, you have to know what drives individuals. And at some point, you're going to have management that is in tune with that. And if you don't have management in tune with individuals, that's a whole nother discussion. But it may not be financial. It may not be, the rewards. People today want career development. They want professional development. They want to build a brand. There is a different sort of reward and recognition platform for people that's very individual now. And what I would say is you can build stuff into your CX programs that directly tie to behaviors, and rewarding behaviors is really what has worked. So when a group has 360 feedback, in other words, their peers are jumping in, the management or maybe people below them, when it's a 360 system and you're getting feedback towards behaviors, and then the reward is local, meaning it means something to you. That is what you're really hoping to drive for. And one example, you can build in, back to coffee so you can build in if a contact center or a certain situation is saying, hey, as a team, we would love to have this different setup for employee morale. There's little things you can do, like in your ROI, put 10% towards something for the employees that have gotten the lift that you're hoping to get out of your program, right? The employees have to do things differently in order to get the lift, so they can be built into the ROI, and I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to mention was organizational maturity. I was this company, Avista Utilities, up in the north in Washington. So they have a really cool program that I thought sort of exemplified maturity, and it's called Feel Free to Fix It. And this program is really cool. So they provide up to $500 for field workers to go out and fix things. And they have what that means is when you're in the moment with a customer, if you happen to cut down a tree that you need to get around, or there's mulch you could fix in the yard after you've been there as a utility worker, it's really handy for them to go grab this, or there's a thermocouple in the furnace. These are the types of things that customers appreciate, and it's that extra part, right? So I think maturity to me is this example here, where they've unleashed their workforce to take care of the customer. What did that mean financially? They're only seeing receipts coming in for $15, $20, little things, and it's those employees that are taking advantage of that they're actually rewarding and talking to, and really starting to pull in to the other employees and sort of teach as best practices. So just a final example that I thought would be helpful as far as what I think of maturity. I think of unleashing and empowering your workforce like that, and understanding that the finances are going to work out, and you need to pilot it and test it, and then go ahead and look and see what happens. So Avista is one great case of that.
So Peter, I think that's a fantastic example and a guiding example for us to think about as we go back to our organizations and we drive adoption and keep people accountable. You know, certainly the holy grail of an empowered workforce that can fix what they see is why we're all on this call and why we're thinking about how to do that. And so I think that's a great example to end with. We're just about out of time, and I wanted to go back and give the 3 high points that I took out of this conversation, if you didn't have a chance to join at the beginning. The first is wallpaper the world. Thanks to Lynn, I think that's a great comment, and that doesn't mean coffee mugs and pens. Well, it does mean coffee mugs and pens, but that also means the digital spaces and the other environments that your employees are working in. Be present, be available, which goes to the second recommendation, which is to communicate. Communicate often, and when you have a chance to do it face-to-face, whether that's with remote workforce over a tool like Google Hangout, or that's in the office in a conference room, the more time we spend together, the more the organization will adopt the messages we're sending. And then finally, when you've done all the hard work, reward each other. Figure out a great way to make people happy and feel that their energy is recognized and rewarded. And when all that's said and done, don't forget to reward yourself. So with that, thank you all for joining. We'll have another Hangout in a month, the very last Wednesday of April. It will be on customer-centric culture. So hopefully over this next month, everyone will have fully adopted workforces and we can talk about fully adopted cultures. But until then, have a great month. Feel free to ask our experts any questions you have on the community. There's a link there that says Ask the Experts. It's in the open forum. And beyond that, you can go to cxpa.org or community.cxpa.org to find a bunch of other great resources we have there for you. So again, I'm Drew Hall. Thank you very much for joining this Google Hangout. We will see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.